I don't care what broke us up. We know that
Kody Brown always fancied himself the unshakable patriarch. The man who held together a family stretched across 4 households and one crumbling ideal. But this time, something cracked. Not in private, not quietly. No, this time, the fall began in front of a judge under the harsh fluorescent lights of a courtroom that didn't care about reality TV reputations. It started with a ruling Kody never saw coming. According to insiders, Kody didn't just take the court's child support decision badly, he unraveled. Witnesses say he stormed out of the courtroom like a man possessed. His eyes, wild. His muttering, incoherent. But one thing was crystal clear. He believed this ruling would financially ruin him. He told anyone who'd listen, even the clerk trailing him into the parking lot, that this judgment would be his undoing. He wasn't posturing, he wasn't performing. Kody told the judge, word for word, "This will bankrupt me." And what sent him into that spiral? A retroactive clause stretching back over a year, coupled with child support payments far steeper than he'd imagined. Kody expected resistance. He expected negotiation. What he didn't expect was for Christine to come with receipts, school invoices, medical bills, even Venmo screenshots, all documented, all presented, all tied back to one unshakable message. These are your children and they need support. Kody didn't flinch. He snapped. He told the court clerk flat out, "I'm not paying for kids who've been turned against me." Christine, still inside, finalizing documents, didn't hear him, but her attorney did. And what they heard wasn't frustration, it was strategy. Because before Kody's footsteps even cooled in the parking lot, Christine's legal team was bracing for what would come next, an appeal. Not for fairness, not for justice, but to buy time. What Kody hadn't anticipated was how prepared Christine really was. Every receipt, every ignored medical invoice, every penny she'd covered solo, she had it all lined up. One family friend put it bluntly. He treated child support like revenge, but it's not revenge, it's reality. Still, Kody wasn't backing down. Behind closed doors and increasingly in public, he started spinning a new narrative. Christine blindsided him. The judge was biased. The numbers didn't reflect his current financial situation. But the most telling part, Kody didn't whisper about his appeal, he shouted it. He was already threatening it before the ink dried on the order. Inside sources close to Robyn say that same night Kody didn't sleep. He paced the living room, ranting about false numbers and political attacks. But those watching closely didn't buy it. This wasn't righteous indignation. This was delay tactics, stalling, hoping Christine would eventually give in. But in trying to stall, Kody might have triggered something much worse. See, Christine's legal team had been quietly following the money trail for months, and what they found sent shockwaves through the courtroom. A single document slid across the table shifted everything. It wasn't a dramatic accusation. It didn't need to be, because what it revealed spoke louder than any outburst. A dormant joint account reactivated. A single transfer of nearly $15,000 moved out, just 72 hours before the child support hearing. No explanation, just the words, "family needs." The judge's gaze reportedly locked on Kody, and in that moment, the room fell silent. "Is there anything you'd like to clarify?" the judge asked. Kody didn't. He went quiet. And in that silence, the damage was done. Christine didn't accuse him of fraud. She didn't have to. The timing said it all. According to courthouse sources, that moment sealed the ruling. It turned a mere judgment into a reckoning. Legal analysts later weighed in. You don't move that kind of money from a dormant account before a support hearing unless you're bracing for a verdict you don't want. Robyn wasn't in the courtroom, but her presence loomed large. The $15,000 transfer wasn't a mystery for long. Social media sleuths began connecting the dots almost instantly. Just days after the transaction, a delivery truck was photographed outside Robyn's home. New outdoor furniture. Luxury upgrades? Fans online weren't buying the coincidence. You don't move 15 grand? One fan posted, and suddenly your patio's redone with high-end decor? According to Christine's legal team, that $15,000 transfer may have been just the beginning. More flagged transactions, more matching receipts, and possibly a full financial investigation looming. Because when you try to hide money and get caught, the court can dig deeper, much deeper. Christine didn't come to the courtroom to humiliate Kody. She came for justice. Her goal, to secure what their children deserve. By the looks of it, she was miles ahead. Sources close to her team say Christine spent months building her case. With help from a close friend, rumored to be an accountant, she meticulously matched withdrawal dates to key family events. And what emerged was a painful pattern. Ignored tuition fees, skipped dentist bills, unpaid school supplies. A one-household Robyn's flourished with new renovations and high-end purchases. Christine's kids were going without. Main household. That phrase came up a lot in Christine's filings. Not just in court, in her heart. Because to her, Kody had stopped seeing the rest of his children as equal. And Robyn's household, his legal wife's domain, had become the financial sanctuary where everyone else was left behind. And then came the most damning development yet. Christine's team flagged multiple PayPal transfers from a family. LLC deposits all under $2,000. Quiet, strategic, repeated the receiving account. Allegedly an online business under Robyn's name. Nothing officially illegal, but the pattern and timing spoke volumes. One large transfer coincided with Robyn's birthday. It's that same weekend. Kody didn't call or visit any of his kids. Outside her household, just silence. And a luxury spa post briefly shared, then deleted. This wasn't just about missed payments anymore. This was about behavior, priorities, neglect. Legal analysts agreed. Courts care about patterns. And this is a pattern. The ink had barely dried on the restraining orders when the real war began. Because if you think the drama ended with legal filings, think again. What followed was a storm of allegations, police reports, cold phone calls, and a family fractured beyond repair. This isn't just about who took what. It's about what was destroyed in the process. And Kody Brown, he wasn't ready for the blowback. As tensions reached their peak, the legal system wasn't the only battleground. Behind the scenes, the family was unraveling. Restraining orders, previously just words on paper, were now active and alive, echoing through every move Kody made. The sheriff's office was involved. Law enforcement began to see the sister wives not as reality TV stars, but as parties. In a legal mess nobody could ignore. According to court filings, Kody allegedly violated the protective orders multiple times. Once, he sent someone else to deliver personal items on his behalf, but the individual was turned away. Why? Because even third-party contact was prohibited. A silent but brutal message was being sent. Stay away or face consequences. But the alleged violations didn't stop there. In one of the most chilling developments, a neighbor of Christine, yes, Christine, the woman who once stood beside Kody through plural chaos, filed a report stating that she believed someone had been watching her house. Suspicion loomed. Heavy, she was on edge. Then, as if ripped from a suspense thriller, a car was spotted circling the neighborhood more than once. The police were called, investigations were opened. And while no formal charges were filed, the fear that crept in was real. Christine wasn't just leaving a marriage, she was running from something darker. Was it paranoia? Or was it a shadow from the past refusing to let go? Kody, however, was not about to go quietly. According to a statement from his legal team, he categorically denied all allegations of misconduct or harassment. In his version of events, he was simply trying to maintain connection with his family and ensure the safety of his children. But public sympathy didn't follow him. Because when your exes file orders of protection and your neighbors file reports of being watched, something's wrong. Kody's image as a father figure, the polygamist patriarch, who once juggled for wives and 18 children, was now cracking. And behind that crack was something sharp, jagged, and painful. While legal protection orders made headlines, an even bigger war brewed beneath the financial one. Christine claimed in a declaration that she had no access to family accounts. After leaving, Janelle, too, began hinting publicly and legally that years of contributions had disappeared into joint family finances she no longer had access to. Mary, she remained cryptic, but her silence spoke volumes. Behind the scenes, attorneys began combing through property records. Shared bank accounts, business registrations under Dabsark Entertainment, the shell company behind many of the Brown family's earnings and ownership of assets, like cars, properties, and even book royalties. This wasn't just a breakup. This was economic war. As word of the disputes leaked online, social media exploded. Fans who once cheered for the family were now split into camps. Hashtag Team Christine, hashtag Justice for Janelle, and a smaller but louder hashtag Support KODY group emerged. The hashtag Free the Wives started trending on TikTok and Instagram. Commentary channels dissected every court document. Former insiders spoke to podcasts. Leaks flooded Reddit threads with alleged audio recordings of tense phone calls and accusations of abuse that the public hadn't seen before. And all the while, Kody stood firm, or tried to. In an Instagram live, he declared, "People are twisting everything. I'm a father. I'm not perfect, but I've never hurt anyone. I've always been about unity." But unity had left the building. Then came the final spark that turned the smoldering feud into a full-blown inferno. Janelle, in a late-night call to authorities, reported a suspicious package left outside her residence. When police arrived, they determined it was non-threatening, but the psychological toll had already taken hold. Protective custody was considered for one of the younger children, according to unverified court filings. Everyone was scared. No one trusted anyone. And Kody, he'd become a name whispered in courtrooms on emergency dispatch radios. And in emails from lawyers trying to de-escalate what had spiraled into a true-life nightmare. The drama wasn't over, not even close. Because after legal filings, asset investigations, and emotional breakdowns, a bombshell was about to drop. One that would involve secret recordings, custody battles, and a shocking confession that would change the narrative forever. While the headlines kept buzzing about breakups and betrayals, the real battles were fought in the quiet corridors of county courthouses, custody forms, property deeds, tax records. These became the new weapons in a war where love had long since died. Each signature was a scar. Every notarized page another wound. One filing nearly missed by the press revealed something shocking. A transfer of property that took place just days before Christine officially announced her separation. It raised eyebrows and questions. Was she preparing for the fallout long before the cameras caught on? Was it a desperate act of self-preservation? And then came the counter-accusations. Kody's legal response suggested that certain properties had been wrongfully retained by Christine. He wanted them back, not just land, but leverage. But Christine wasn't going to back down. In her filings, she detailed years of alleged financial neglect, saying that while she had contributed equally to the family, her autonomy had always been an illusion. She recounted times when she'd been told she had to ask permission to use her own income, times when purchases were questioned, and investments, she claims, were made without her consent, but with her money. Then she dropped the hammer, a sworn statement that she feared continued coercion and emotional retaliation if financial matters weren't handled through the court. That sentence alone was enough to send a ripple of concern through fans and attorneys alike. Her voice, long silenced in a household of spiritual wives, was finally being heard in legal ink. Once portrayed as the problem child among the wives, Christine's bravery reshaped public opinion. Support for her swelled online. Women across the country and even around the world began sharing their own stories of financial control and emotional manipulation. Hashtag Christine Strong started trending. Kody, meanwhile, began losing more than just public favor. Sponsorships attached to the family's name were quietly pulled. TLC's PR team stopped issuing updates. The network distanced itself subtly but deliberately. And while the cameras kept rolling, what was once a show about love and plural unity had now become a courtroom documentary in real time. Janelle, ever the silent strategist, now stepped forward. She released a cryptic post. Some things take years to surface, but when they do, healing begins. And then she filed her own claim, not for property, but for financial restitution. In her petition, she claimed she had invested thousands into a shared family business under the promise of profit sharing that never materialized. Her name wasn't on the official LLC, but her money was in its veins. She wanted her share. She wanted justice. But more than that, she wanted her freedom. With Christine and Janelle both turning to the courts and Mary's silence growing, more thunderous by the day, Kody found himself cornered, not just legally, but emotionally. Former allies were now plaintiffs. Wives were now witnesses. And the empire he had so carefully built, camera by camera, was slipping through his fingers. Rumors of a fourth wife's departure began circling. Robyn was seen alone at a grocery store. No cameras, no Kody, no smiles. Insiders whispered that even she was questioning everything. Was this the end of the Brown family dynasty, or the beginning of something darker? In a twist no one saw coming, an audio clip leaked online. It was a voicemail. Allegedly, Kody, his voice strained and tired, speaking to one of the children. The words were raw. "I'm not the villain they're making me out to be. You know that. They're rewriting everything. Just don't believe all of it." Some heard remorse. Others heard manipulation. But one thing was certain. The court of public opinion had already made up its mind. The filings, the police reports, the property disputes, they weren't just paperwork. They were the ashes of a crumbled dream. A dream sold to the world as love, unity, and faith, now exposed as betrayal, silence, and power. But the worst was yet to come. Because while Christine and Janelle were gaining ground, and Mary watched from a quiet distance, Kody was preparing something else. Something big. And when it arrived, it would shake not just the family, but the entire franchise. It was quiet for a while. Too quiet. After weeks of leaked documents, fiery interviews, and courtroom chess, something strange happened. Silence. No Instagram posts. No new filings. The headlines cooled. But anyone paying attention knew that kind of silence never lasts. Not in this family. It was just the eye of the storm. And the storm was about to return. Stronger. Kody reemerged. Not in court. Not at a family event. But on a carefully staged podcast interview, crisp lighting, neutral colors, and what some call the image of a reformed man. He said he had made mistakes, said the truth had been distorted. He called himself a man broken by miscommunication. But then came the pivot. "I was lied to," he said, voice tight. "Manipulated into financial decisions I never agreed to. There are things the world doesn't know, things that would change how you see all of this." And just like that, he dropped a bomb. Kody's attorney filed a new motion alleging undisclosed bank accounts, not his Christine's. According to the motion, Christine had allegedly funneled family income into a private LLC months before leaving the relationship. The document suggested that she had quietly set up a separate financial track, complete with investments and withdrawals that had no paper trail in the family's official records. It was a stunning reversal, and it lit the fuse. Christine's team fired back within 48 hours, calling the claim a desperate fiction designed to punish a woman for leaving a toxic arrangement. But it was clear this wasn't just about money anymore. This was war. Mary, who had remained eerily neutral through all of this, finally broke her silence. Not in a press conference, not on TV, but in a Facebook Live. Alone, no makeup, eyes swollen. I gave 30 years of my life to a family that left me behind. The moment I wasn't useful, I don't want vengeance. I want truth. And then came the reveal she had kept journals. Dozens of them. Every major conversation, disagreement, and financial decision documented. Lawyers requested copies within hours. As the parents warred in court, the next generation, their children began to find their voices. One daughter, formerly private, gave an emotional interview. We were told love meant silence, that loyalty meant obedience. I watched my mom cry in closets. I watched my dad gaslight her and then tell us she was crazy. Another son released a statement saying he had been financially cut off for refusing to side with his father. The damage wasn't just marital, it was generational. The Brown family brand, once sold as spiritual wholesomeness, now stood accused of emotional warfare, coercion, and control. And then all eyes turned to Robyn. Her silence had once been her shield. But now it was seen as complicity. Rumors swirled, secret meetings, private settlements, even a potential divorce. Then, shockingly, she appeared in court, not as a defendant, not as a witness, but as a co-signatory on a joint financial statement. With Kody, it revealed something no one had seen before, that Robyn and Kody had, for years, kept a private set of accounts completely separate from the rest of the family. They had homes, businesses, assets, none of which had ever been disclosed in the family's shared filings. The courtroom gasped. Christine's attorney requested an immediate audit, and the fans. They turned. TLC executives, once quietly observing, now found themselves forced into action. An internal review began. Contracts were re-examined. Confidentiality clauses were challenged. Multiple advertisers pulled their sponsorships within days. By the end of the week, production on the next season was paused indefinitely. What had once been a top-rated reality series was now a legal and ethical minefield, and the cast scattered. Christine was rumored to be in talks for her own docuseries. Janelle began consulting with women's advocacy groups. Mary launched a podcast about spiritual betrayal. And Kody went dark. No posts, no sightings. Gone. In a final twist, a handwritten letter surfaced. It was mailed anonymously to a former producer. No return address, no confirmation. But the handwriting matched Kody's. I built a house with no windows. Then I blamed them when the light didn't come in. Maybe this is justice. Or maybe it's just the end of pretending. Some called it fake. Others said it was the most honest thing he'd ever written. But either way, the story was over. Not with a reunion, not with forgiveness, not even with revenge, but with revelation. The Brown family saga began as a tale of faith and unity. It ended as a courtroom epic, a cautionary fable about power, control, and the cost of silence. Because sometimes the most dangerous stories are the ones we film ourselves living in. And no amount of editing can save us from the truth.